I'm Brother Q. Hi, everybody. We're going to get started, and the topic is, as you all know, is polygamy from the female perspective. And I'm going to go around the room. I'll start with you, Tanya. Let's just, you don't have to give your life story. Just like say hi and let us know, first of all, just slightly introduce yourself. It's not really that deep. But I also want to know, before we begin, your personal perspective on it. In other words, hey, I'm Tanya, I'm for polygamy, or I'm not. It's okay. It's not, I just want to get that out of the way. So as we go around the room on different subject matter, different scenarios and so forth, I want to be able to identify. It's like, well, everybody on the call is into it. No, she said she's not into it, and you heard her. But she's down for that, or she's not down for that. You know what I'm saying? So I want to get that out of the way. You, Tanya, you go first. I'm going to be the fly on the wall tonight, but go
ahead. Okay, so I'm Tanya, and I live in New Jersey. I was born and raised in New York City. And what else? I mean, my background is mostly in health and wellness. I'm a massage therapist. I'm into energy work, vibrational work, spirituality, African spirituality. I have to put that on the table. I'm an initiated priestess. So in terms of polygamy, my feelings are mixed. And I think it really depends on a couple of things. And the reason I say that is because polygamy has its, I guess it's...
Okay, Tanya, wait a minute. Okay, we're just going to do introductions because I want to know what everybody stands.
You wanted to know where I stand.
Okay, so you say you're mixed. You say you have mixed feelings. Okay, Bastet, you go next. Just want to basic introduction. I'm gonna pull the tape. I'm gonna put the tape on my mouth in a minute. But go ahead, Bastet, you're next.
Okay. Hi, my name is Bastet. I live in Maryland. I'm originally from upstate New York. I'm definitely into spirituality. I'm also a massage therapist as well. My background is in wireless telecommunications. I would say, as far as polygamy is concerned, it is not for me, but I do see the opportunities that it may afford others who may be interested, interested in it.
Okay. Cool. Valerie?
Hi, I'm Valerie. I contract with the government, and I am a writer. I do a lot of other things. I can crochet, I can sew. Anyway, that's my background, but I have been in a communal situation. I was part of a polygamous situation for about 4 years, and with about 30 women.
Oh, okay.
So I can see the benefit. I watched some of what I could watch of part one. Yeah. So I do understand in terms of community how vital that can be. But it depends on a lot of different things. So I would be for it depending upon the situation, circumstance. That's where I stand because I can see the benefit.
All right, cool.
I have a question. Right. She said something about part one. I guess I missed part one. Was there a part one?
Yeah, with the male perspective.
Oh,
can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Just checking. Yeah, from the first part was where the males came on. Did you happen to see that show?
I did not. I didn't realize. I didn't think we were going to have access to that. I thought we were going to.
Oh, yeah. I post every week. Every week. Okay, now, just before we get into the show, I want to say this. First of all, I know it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I'm shaking. You don't even know. But I want you guys to come back and interact with the same set of males that did the original show. Because so many people think that guys just chomp at the bit, multiple females. Oh, I'm the man.
No, it's not.
It's not like that. Now, these individuals that I chose are not from an initiated perspective. They're just guys that I know. Some are professionals. One's a younger man, and so they are not initiates to this kind of lifestyle in any kind of way. They're just regular modern guys, one of guys from church. So you see what I'm saying? It's not a situation where, would that happen to be Idea that jumped in here?
Yeah,
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Like I said, welcome to the show. This is an individual that I invited to the show and to be in on perspective. So basically what you missed a little earlier, I was asking everybody to just give a slight introduction. You know, just, hey, I'm Q, you know, and I'm either for polygamy or not really for polygamy, you know, and we'll start there and then we'll just go around the room with the questions and things. So, Idea. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
It's Val.
That's
Val.
Val.
Val
Val?
with the B. B.
Oh, okay, Val.
Val.
Okay. So introduce yourself to everybody and we'll get started.
Hi, I'm Val.
Okay. All right, Val. So what's your perspective? Are you for polygamy or against it or in the middle or what, Val?
Well, I think I'm kind of in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just jump right in. All right, Tanya, I so rudely interrupted you before, and you have the floor. I'm just going to sit here and enjoy this. And oh, by the way, for anyone who missed it, happy Women's Day, because, you know, not everybody is a mother.
Thank
but
you.
I celebrate you all, and this is your day, you know.
Okay.
And as I was saying before, I couldn't have planned this on a better day. I didn't plan it, but it worked out perfectly. So Tanya, take it away.
Oh no, so I said I was mixed initially because I would say I lean more towards like it's not for me. But the reason I say mixed is because I feel like polygamy has its own like quote unquote technical definition. But a lot of us are in polygamous type of relationships, whether we know it or not. Right? So, but from a communal standpoint, being older, being more mature, understanding economics, understanding a little broader world view, I could see the benefits of how it could work if certain parameters are in place, right? So that's what I was gonna say when I said I was mixed.
Okay, Valerie.
Yes.
I'm just going to let you go because I want to know everything that you know, and you know, I'm wide open, wide open.
Well, so being in that situation, there's a lot of dynamics going on. The more women, the more the dynamic situation increases. The situation I was a part of, we were co-wives and we helped raise the children collectively. There were groups that got along better with each other. And, you know, so there were sets of women who did more things together. You know, it was that type of situation. But everyone had a talent. Everyone had a thing that they offered to, you know, for the benefit of the group. Right. You know, you had those who could sew. You had those who could cook better. Those who were nurses, doctors, doulas.
All right.
And some would teach each other. But everyone took part in raising the children. So the children, we were all mothers of the children. So it was a very, what I enjoyed about it was the sisterhood of it, because, first of all, it was a part of a communal situation. So we were all there for a purpose of living for, of, and by each other. It ended up not being a good situation from the head leader that we were,
Okay.
wives to. But under a better situation, that situation in terms of having your own land, farming your own land, owning your own land, and living on your own land, that was an excellent idea. So in that way, I saw the benefit of it. It had it been under the right circumstance, it would have been perfect. Okay. We knew how to live off the land. We knew how to take, herbs. People knew. So you know how to take care of yourself naturally. It would have been a good situation. So the only thing that now there were other families that lived on the land with us where, some brothers did not understand how to treat their women. So that's where it becomes a situation where it can be a bit dicey, because you can have a brother who's abusive, and then it's just which I've seen. I've seen men beat the woman because maybe she didn't say the right thing the right way. It can be, it has to be a certain man who understands his role,
right,
and understands what those women are to him, and then the women have to understand what they are to each other. If that's all in place and everyone has a singular goal, a common goal, then I think it can be a very harmonious situation. I experienced harmony and I experienced drama.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay, so I have a quick question. Now, you said you witnessed some brothers not being kind of abusive. Okay, was there anyone or there were any kind of system in place to check that?
No, no, because it was a Muslim community at the time. It changed very drastically, but at the time in the Quran, I guess, and they ran with that. In that scripture, it said that the woman was their property, and if the woman needed chastisement, that's what they, the brother was allowed to do that. Right. So no one really stopped it, Yeah, no. Okay. So, it can be a situation of if a man is not in his right state of mind, or in his standing on his square the way he needs to, that can affect the whole family, affect the community.
Exactly. Now, just for the record, as you guys know, I'm for polygamy, but that is where I draw the line. I am of the opinion that if you are in a communal situation, there should be a panel of elders. Okay? And if there is a situation that needs to be handled, that the sisters need to be able to go to the elders and be able to speak on such issues as that, so that it's not like anybody is being held captive or anybody is being abused, because after all, the reason to get into that situation in the first place is for longevity's sake and the sake of protection and upliftment of the women and the children and all involved. All right, let's see if we can get... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was saying I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. There should be mutual respect for each person in their in their realm, And
so let me ask you a question. You said, I think I heard you say earlier that there were about 30 women.
With the particular man that I was with, we were with, it was about 30 of us at any given time. Some people would leave, some people would join. So yeah, it was a lot of women. It wasn't just the regular, polygamous situation, maybe like 2 women or maybe 3 women. It was just multiple. It was a lot of women with this one person.
I'm going to have questions about that later, but I'm going to let the other ladies chime in. Bassett?
Wow. I'm fascinated by what she's just saying.
Right. I'm open. Exactly.
I'm fascinated in the sense that, it's not my world. I can't relate to that. My father adored my mother. My mother, she could have had anybody she wanted, and my dad knew he had a good thing, and he raised 5 children. He worked. And, as a young child, I could tell when there was issues between my mother and father. There was probably something that happened. My dad may have done something, because I remember my mom crying, and my mother, she would never cry and she would never tell me why. But I think something happened between the two of them. Whatever that thing was, it never happened again. So I know there are situations where things happen, and, it's the maturity of the relationship. As far as polygamy is concerned, I see the benefit. I see where it can provide opportunities for us to grow, and, a family can be prosperous, in a more expeditious manner. It's almost like, for me, since I've never been exposed to that,
Right.
it sounds foreign to me. There was a show on Discovery. There's a tribe over in Africa where, when the daughter gets married, the eldest aunt in the family gets to sleep with the husband first. So see how you look at your face. See how you feel? It sounds kind of weird, right? So what you guys are sharing with me, that's how I feel right now. Like, this is like weird.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted you to feel how I was feeling. As she was telling me, 1 man, 30 women, there's no way. Like, for me personally, there's nothing exciting about that scenario. Plus, I'm older. I mean, I'm in my 50s. But even then, I think about that 1 man with 30 women. Statistically, women live longer than men, 7 to 10 years. So hopefully this guy with the 30 wives was financially, he had everything in place. Obviously they had land, but even then, that means that somebody else has to come in and fill his place, because now you have all these widows. So I see the benefit, but I see the negative also. And I feel like there's so many abandoned children, not just here in America, but all over the world. We can love them. We can be prosperous with them if we really want to. Right. And then once we get back, because the land is coming back to our people, because the other races they're not producing. We still are producing. Right. Once we get everything back, is this scenario still viable?
Good point. Good point.
Okay. Thank you.
Tanya, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of what Bassett had just said, and off of what Val had said. When you look historically at polygamy, it actually is something. When Bassett was talking about Africa, they have, different tribes have different structures around polygamy, but it actually was a very minimal thing. It wasn't widely practiced the way we think it was. And in the case of a king or royalty or chiefs who had the wealth, polygamy was really preserved for the wealthy, right? So what Bassett is saying, you did have to have wealth to be able to take care of those wives.
Exactly.
But what I found, though, in because I was telling you, Q, I used to do divinations for a lot of males who were interested in polygamy. But one of the things that always came across was the fact that the men who were interested in polygamy couldn't even handle polygamy, because, it's hard enough to have a relationship with one woman.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So and I'm just saying this strictly from a spiritual, the person having to be made, which Valerie was talking about. A male has to be a great manager of his own life, and then he has to manage everything else, right? Whether it's his wealth, whether it's the land, whether it's the children, and holding it all together. And that's hard enough to do with one woman. So even in Africa, it was a very minimal practice. But what I
Mhm.
found interesting, the reason why I brought up the divinations is because it made me kind of research polygamy a little bit. And what was interesting is that extramarital affairs was more common than polygamy. So, and it was accepted by a lot of tribes because the king, the chief, couldn't satisfy all those women.
Wait. So what you're saying is that you might have multiple wives, but the wives were cheating on the husband because they wasn't getting their turn. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, because that was the next thing I was
Because
going to ask.
because a lot of the polygamy, we sexualize polygamy, but polygamy was really about, it is in a way, if you say transgender wealth, because
Right.
I was surprised that even if a woman got pregnant by another male besides the king would take the child as his own.
Right.
So there's a lot of aspects of this that we just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, I think, myths. What we assume polygamy is, what we assume, how we think it works,
Okay.
but when you look at different tribes, they handled it very differently. And I was really surprised about the extramarital piece, and that was even more common than polygamy. And actually, monogamy was the most popular. Most males, even in Africa, preferred one woman. It was just more harmonious. It was just more peaceful. It was just simpler,
Easier.
Okay.
And I'm serious. And if he didn't have the wealth, he could only afford one. So,
Right.
so monogamy was actually the more popular of all.
Okay.
And I was surprised by that too.
Yeah, we got to talk about that, that aunt thing. Oh, man, that's crazy. Okay, Valerie.
Yes.
Man, I'm like,
Wait. Before Valerie speak, why you do that?
No, because, okay, listen. I have this wife that, let's say I'm getting married or she's coming into the family and we're good together, all the charts and everything is together and looking forward to this. And I got to go tap grandma, before we get it going. How do I look at grandma at the family picnic after that,
Right. Or how does she look at you? I mean, it's the same thing.
Grandma got to
right?
test the goods and grandma got to test the goods.
Yeah.
Man.
Who knows what kind of...
Right. Hey, look, mess around and get grandma sprung. So, she be coming over more often than usual, but, oh, man.
But on that point,
we gotta go to Bow. We forgot Bow.
Oh yeah,
Bow, I'm sorry. Bow, you got to comment on that. Oh my God.
I was laughing because what she said made sense. I mean, grandma, auntie, or whatever might look at you and be like, "Yo, look, maybe we could share them." You know what I'm saying? So we don't know if grandma or auntie is married. We don't know if she has a man either. So
wow.
I mean, can you imagine that they're willing to do that? Like, girl, I'll go do that for you. I mean, really.
Wow. It's like, you know what? You're not treating him right. You need to knock him. I need to knock him off and give him some act right. Wow. See, mind blown.
But aunties also maybe more experienced. So
that's true.
Yeah.
See, on the flip side of that, she'd be like, hey, bro, you're not knocking it down the way you're supposed to. Let me show you. It's like, I don't want to say that, but hey. Hey, well, look, grandma, I was a little tired, I need to get my CMOS up, I don't know. Okay, Valerie, got a question.
Okay.
Tell us about emotional support for the females, because I'm like, I cannot imagine one man with, let's say, upwards of 5 wives, and any of them getting the proper emotional support from him in anyway, and I don't even think that would be like.
It's not a possibility.
Right, it's not possible. I don't see that. So.
Only when there were favorites. So there was like a caste system.
Oh, okay.
In that situation with that many women, and he had the money. He was one that had nobody else had that many wives.
Right.
You know,
okay.
And only in this communal situation, only the brothers that could afford to have multiple wives had them, but nobody had as many as he did. Okay. But nobody, maybe I'd say maybe two of his wives may have had what I could probably say emotional support. They were close to him, always around him.
Right.
When you first came into the family, you were around him. And then, after a while, if he chose to keep you around as a favorite, you would. If not, so there was a lot of competition. There was a lot of that dynamic going on. But you didn't get what you needed. Right. As in a relationship, and I the only thing I would say in a polygamous situation, because a woman has needs. It's one thing to be in a situation for a cause or for a purpose, but there still has to be some type of relationship. Some support. Type of exchange, some type, and so exactly support. So a lot of us felt you felt a bit belittled if you at once. So in my personal situation, at one time I was a favorite, but I got tired of playing the game. It was like a waiting game because people would vie for his attention, right. So much so that they would play games, and I got tired of that. So I just kind of dropped out of it because I was just like, it was too much, So there was a lot of manipulation that he would use to control. It was a different scenario. It wasn't we loved him in a certain way because of who he was, but not many of us had the type of relationship where we could say, oh, he's got my back, or he supported us in a certain way, but not emotionally.
Right.
And sometimes he might just say he might not even call you by your name, So
I would imagine if it was 30 females, did he even remember who you were?
Right. It could, if some of them he did, but maybe sometimes he didn't. I wouldn't imagine that he would. And because of who he was, he slept with other people's wives too. Like that's a completely different.
Yes, that's the next show.
Trail off, but I'm just saying, that has nothing to do with this conversation per se.
Right.
But that wasn't. I wouldn't say that wasn't a good experience for me for a lot of reasons. But I did see the benefit of it. Like say, one woman could be on her cycle, and in terms of it benefiting, it basically the way we were focusing on it, it wasn't really and for our benefit. It was for his benefit.
Okay.
And that's not
ladies.
Wow.
Okay, I know you all want to jump in, but before you jump in, I just have something that I want to ask. Because I know somebody's going to hit me up in the comments and ask me, okay, being that there wasn't proper emotional support, I understand that you are for polygamy. Why would you accept that? And why would you stay?
Is this a question to me or to the parents?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's to you first. That's from me.
Well, I stayed because I left home. I was basically what I come to call a cult.
Okay.
I left home. I left everything, and everybody that was there left everything. Everything. Job, if you had one. I joined when I was 17.
Okay.
And I stayed there until I was 23. Okay. So I didn't really have. I could have gone home, but I believed religiously in that. Okay. I believed in the cause, so I was in that mind state. So anything I went through, anything I was willing to suffer through because of what I believed in. So that was a different, setup. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't under my right mind type situation, but I'll say that.
Okay, it was under religious perspective. Okay,
Right.
I'll come back to that, ladies.
Okay.
Anybody? Questions,
Uh,
comments? Anybody?
yeah. That I think her scenario is like an extreme. Almost like a Jim Jones scenario.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't want to say that, but okay.
Yeah. So that's
Okay.
really fascinating.
Yeah. See. Okay. Okay. Now I'm the male. Remember, I'm for it. I'm not saying that it's necessarily for me at this stage in my life, but I am for it simply because, as you said in the beginning, when you have the means and you have the land, and you are trying to grow community, grow family, but I think that it should benefit, and from my perspective, it should benefit the women and the children more so than the man. In other words, I'm the manager. Okay. For instance, there's a scenario I like to use. If I have 20 acres, and let's say I have 3 wives, right? Each of the wives get an acre. Okay, that's the marital agreement. Each child that you bear me gets an acre. They start their life off with property. Now, whatever we acquire during the time of relationship comes into the community, and I decide how it gets dispersed. If there is an issue with any individual, like I said, there should be a panel of elders that you could go to. There should be a support system for the sisters to talk to. If there is a situation where the man has an issue with a particular female, and before you go in and you tighten her up, hey, listen, we need to get this together, because whatever happens, it affects you, it affects her, it affects the children, and everybody else gets to see. Okay, and then you have the naysayers outside that says, hey, this is not going to work because of that. So there has to be a support system. I understand that you thought about it from a religious perspective, and I have seen that. One of the ministries that I follow is Pastor Dowell, Straightway Ministries, and they do that, and they practice that, and they have communities. So I understand from that perspective, and I watch. But in looking at that, I like what I see, because I see support for the sisters from both the sisters and the men, because they have other men to check that man.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I think her name is Val. So I know your scenario was extreme, but what was the interaction and relationship with the man and the children?
Yeah,
so
that was my next question.
Did he, participate, go to, baseball game, and what did he do with the kids?
Oh gosh. So and sorry if this turns into this was a okay, so his own children, he really didn't he was like a celebrity to his children. He didn't really his oldest child at the time, I was with him when I was 19. That's when I first joined the family. Mm-hmm. His oldest child at the time was 31, and he has over 200 children. That at the time that we counted, I'm sure it increased over the years. I didn't keep up, but so he did not. His children knew. Everyone knew who he was. He knew his children, but he did not really participate in their upbringing the way a father would. And basically, all the mothers did the upbringing. His instruction was religious through books, so they would study books and they would get that type of relationship. He may come and he would come in and do lectures. He would maybe come into their lessons and maybe teach a class, and they would interact with him like that. Sometimes they may go and sit and talk to him if, you know, when we were on the land and he was around, you know, but it wasn't the traditional fatherhood, grooming, pouring into type of situation. It just wasn't that type of situation. And there were no baseball games, like, you know, it wasn't that type of situation. Like the kids had, you know, classes. They didn't get to go off the land to do anything like, you know, a normal household would. So they didn't get exposed to the outside world.
So in your opinion, the children as they grew up, did they stay on the land? Did they leave the land? What type of adults did they turn out to be?
Some now that it's been disbanded, some went to jail, some got jobs, some left the land, you know. But before it got dismantled, some would, when they got to be, because the other thing was, how can I explain this without getting too far off there were communities all over, and some were in urban areas, but if you were on the land, you were basically like, his family was on the land. And some of his children were there, some of them were not. Many of them were not. They were in other cities or what have you, okay? But the ones that were on the land, and whatever families were on the land, they didn't go to traditional schools. So after, if they were in urban areas, they went to school up until they didn't get to go to high school. So these children didn't have the opportunity to get a college education. And basically, if they chose to stay, they would end up, you know, being a builder or doing something like that on the land. But they did not. If they were on the land, they didn't even go to traditional schools. They didn't. It was but in the cities, they had to go to school because, you know, a lot of the mothers gave births in hospitals and they were on record and they had to go to school. But they, after their last, you know, year in junior high, that was it. They didn't go to college.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have one more question. So when they gave birth to the children, like, use the word on record, off. So those children were off record, meaning the state didn't know they were born or alive.
Some didn't want to. Some would wait to the last minute and have their child, you know, in the house. I helped give birth to one baby that happened, that, you know, got born like that. The mother didn't want. She waited. She didn't tell anybody, and she went into labor. But they would give birth in the hospital, and they would get on record, but not on the land. You know, on the land, it was different. So some of them, if they went to the hospital, they would get on record, but there was a lot of games played and a lot of things that they did to get around that. You know, when you have a communal situation like that, you can claim sovereignty, you know, and, you know, do things like that. And I think that's what they did, because I don't have children. I can't have children. So I don't know, like, all the ins and outs on the land, what they did. But when I was in the city in that situation, they had to go to school because they did go and give birth in the hospitals, you know. So they did, you know, the children on record, and they did go to school, you know.
Okay. Tanya?
As everybody's talking, just to keep us, it just sounds like your topic, there's varying degrees of polygamy, right?
Oh, yeah.
So are we just talking about the bigger thing, like you were talking about, you know, the land and just having a larger community? But what about polygamy just on a smaller scale, you know, 2 women, 3 women, just in an urban city, no land, no, you know, just what are we really talking about?
Okay.
Because it's like varying degrees of
I was just so captivated by
I know,
Valerie's story that
no. It is.
Yeah.
No, that's why I invited her.
Tanya knows my story. She knows my story.
Yeah, I was captivated. I'm just like, Okay, basically, from my perspective, Most of you here know me that I am not a proponent of the melanated family being within the municipalities. I think that we should all over the country be on our own land, raise our own children, educate our own children, start our own businesses, same way Amish and other communities do. That's me. Now, in a situation like that, I think that polygamy has a prominent place, okay? But that is a sharing support system. Like I said, to have 5 wives, in my humble, limited perspective, would be like right just below the ceiling for any man. That's my opinion, okay? For the situation that she's talking about, I think that's like super extreme. Like, I'm not going to say borderline cult-ish. I think that's over the top. But like I said, we could talk about that at another time. But what I'm trying to do is to get the different female perspective of what it is that women and children would need, okay, to make it work. And for those who do not think it's for them, being that this COVID thing has taken the world on a roller coaster ride, if communication and travel break down, they need to know that they have a community to be into, and how could this play a part and the individuals not be taken advantage of. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay. Ooh. That's a big chunk, because for one, environmental events can definitely force a polygamous situation, right?
Right.
So that's one thing. We saw it with COVID. A lot of women really became aware that they were alone, having to shut down, and you're literally in the house, can't go nowhere, you're alone, So that kind of, events, world events, it could be anything. It could be disease, it could be medical, it could be famine, it could be hunger, because right now I could say, I grew up with the concept of, I don't want to share my man. I don't want to share him. But in a situation where I had to share him versus eat, I think I would eat and I wouldn't be worried about sharing so much, right?
Okay. I want to stop you right there, because I see you all pretty much agreeing with that. Sharing a man. Question. Okay? When you say sharing, I know first thing you mean is sexually, right? But something that Valerie said, as far as attention-wise, let's say you are married to, I don't know, a pastor or some kind of community leader. You have to share your mate and his attention, even though he might not be sleeping around. Mm-hmm. Okay? It takes a certain type of person to be a first lady, to be the mate of a public figure. You see what I'm saying?
Well, so that's what I'm saying. It depends on who we're talking about. So that's what I mean by varying degrees. Mm-hmm. Some women some women want to be the first lady. They like that whole scene, and they can deal with it, humbly, gracefully. I'm going to say gracefully, right? And other women, they don't want that. They whether they don't want to share his attention with any woman sexually or otherwise. Right. So it really depends on the male, because I think how a male carries himself too, determines also how a female reacts. Give me
more.
See, I think depends on so many things, because we're talking maturity.
Yes.
Okay. Big time.
We're talking your belief system, your core belief system. Right. We're talking about. Mm-hmm. We're talking, spiritual foundation, whether you have it or the lack thereof. Okay. All of those things play into how you could potentially deal with a situation like this. So I'll use myself as an example. You know, growing up here in America, you know, my mother and father used to always fight. There was a lot of physical abuse, stuff like that, you know. And so my perspective on men watching my father, you know, beat my mom, you know, it shapes how you think about relationships, right? But when I got married and went to Haiti, I think worldview plays a part in it to open your mind towards certain things. When you look at a country where a lot of people are struggling, there's strife, there's whatever, you know, people have to get along. You don't have a choice. You know what I'm saying?
Are you saying economically?
Yeah, economically, you know, you don't have a choice. People, you know, they're at each other, and you get to see a different perspective of how men and women
rely on each other.
Rely on each other, or if they don't get along, how they come back together, you know, and they throw the anger stuff out of the window because they have to feed their children. They have to, you know, so it really depends. It really, really, really depends on the person. And then we're in this culture, Q, where so much is against the Black male, you know?
And the Black family.
It's so much against us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, go ahead. I'm listening. I'm sorry.
So, so I think it just really depends on a lot. But purpose is key. When Valerie was talking, I think if you're going to do polygamy on any level, right, there has to be a purpose. There has to be a goal, whether it's inner city, whether it's on land, however you're going to do it, it has to be a purpose. And then that led me into what you were talking about. In order for it to work, I just know from spiritual, right? From spiritual, and I can give examples. For instance, I have a friend, and Valerie knows this person, particularly in Africa. One of the things they do, even in a regular relationship, even before it gets polygamous, when a male meets a female, they do a lot of spiritual rituals to make sure the relationship is harmonious from the beginning. As soon as children are born, things are done to the child to make sure that that child, male or female, grows up in a way that is harmonious in their environment, that you are not, you know, you're not a criminal in your environment. They don't want criminals in their environment. So things are done to keep the negative out, to make things harmonious, right? So as these two people are growing up, things are done so you pretty much can have like a good
arrange. So you say arranged marriage?
No, not even. You have arranged. I'll tell you something about that. But there is arrangements for certain reasons. But even naturally, you know, in this situation I'm speaking, is just two people naturally meeting. More attracted to each other because certain spiritual things are in place, like a magnet. A good person meets a good person, right? Okay. Like a magnet. Then they ingest a lot of spiritual medicines, right? That deals with trauma, that deals with dysfunction. You're not bringing on, you know, the thing that people don't talk about, you know, in the sexualization of polygamy is the invisible things that you don't see, right? So if a male has sex with one woman and she has whatever issues, baggage she has, then he has sex with another, that gets transmuted. There's transference. Whether people believe it or not, problems you may not have had, all of a sudden you have, vice versa. The male is also taking on energies that he may not be used to dealing with, right? So they have things, when you were talking, Q, they have things in place to deal with that from the beginning. They don't wait until something happens, you know? So it's planned. It's, how you say, it's taken care of from the beginning to minimize the chaos, to minimize disharmony, you know?
Okay, so let me interject right there. I have a question. because I understand what you just said. Let's say you have someone coming from a Christian perspective or a biblical perspective, or when I say a biblical perspective, I'll say like maybe a Hebrew Israelite, Christian, Mormon, you know what I'm saying? This is how they did it in the Old Testament.
But Old Testament, hold up, let me stop you.
Okay.
Old Testament, many, and I've read the whole Old Testament. Many rituals was done to deal just with that. Purification was key. It was one of the main things of the Old Testament.
Okay, now, I'm not disagreeing with you, right? But taking the devil's advocate position, I never read that. Let's say I've been in church my whole life. I'm trying to have you bring those points out. Prove that to me. Give me examples.
Read the Old Testament.
No,
read it. No. Q, seriously. Okay. You cannot say you're a Christian unless you read it. You have to read it. You don't even have to read the whole Old Testament. If you read the first 6 to 8 books, even 5 books, it is there. Okay. If you are and this is a choice, right? Everything is a choice, right? We're talking any relationship, polygamous or otherwise. You choose how you want your relationship to be. Right. If you're talking about getting into a situation with another person and you're a Christian, you want to be the best Christian you can be. You want to be the best Islamic person you can be. Right. You want to be the best, whatever spiritual system you're in, or even if you're an atheist. You want to be the best that you can be, and you're going to study that thing. Right. You're not going to half read it. I don't want to hear that crap about I'm a Christian and you have not read the book. Right. If you read it, it is there. It is absolutely there. Okay, well, if so there's no excuse for that. Okay, so if it is there, as you say it is, like I said, remember, I'm just moderating, so I think you already know how I feel. But if someone were to say to me, well, if it's there, how come we don't practice that now, and why not? If it's there and that's what's the Bible, how come we are not doing that? How come more people are not doing that from a religious perspective? I'm not just talking Christian, but from a religious perspective, because as far as I know, every religious discipline has some form of polygamous something. Absolutely. So why is it not more widespread, and why is it harder? Wait. Why is polygamy not widespread? At this time, and why is it so hard? Wait, because it never was widespread. Okay. It never was. It was for certain status of people.
And that makes sense. That makes sense that it's for a certain status. Because not the maturity of the man has to be off the charts. Yes. Because most men mature later in life.
Absolutely. And most men, Bass said, don't even acquire their wealth until later
in life. Exactly. And then they die before the woman. So, Come on,
that sounds like Black Widow talk. Come on now. It sounds like and that sounds like a conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy.
Because even in the
he's
Bible,
got his wealth, child. Okay.
Because even in the Bible, in the Old Testament, polygamy was for those that had that status. Okay. It wasn't for everyone, so it was never widespread. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. We think in our minds that it was, but it was not. Okay, well, bring that to today. Bring that to the current times. I think you said it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Finish your question. Finish your question.
You said continue. I'm listening.
You said it, the regular males. I didn't listen. I intentionally did not listen to part 1 when the males spoke, because I didn't want my thoughts to get jaded by what I heard.
You should have listened to it.
I know, but I wanted to
Yeah,
talk. I
because
wanted to talk.
the brothers was saying some stuff. Oh, I listened to it. This bell. At first, I was a little offended. Like, wait a minute, because they were saying stuff about. Well, Q broke it down to me because they said something about how, let's say hypothetically, they said number one thing is communication and talking. We need to talk. So if they're married to somebody, let's say they were married to somebody for 20 something years, and now they decide they want to bring somebody into their family. They said the number one thing to do is to talk, which I do agree with that. And then toward the end, they said if the woman they've been with don't agree with it, that she would get the boot. Wait a minute. What you
I
mean
didn't get
she
to
gonna
finish
get the
watching
boot?
it. I didn't get to finish watching.
No,
Oh,
you need to watch it before we get up with them. You have to watch it because they said a lot of things in there. And like I said, at first they had me going, and I was like, okay, well, some of it I see, some of it I don't. But like they were saying, for example, the person that they might invite doesn't have to be a younger woman. It could be an older woman that knows how to cook, like a grandmother. You know, and then one of the brothers, then Q was like, well, you know, you wouldn't have to worry about sex. And then Kevin was like, wait a minute. That's an older man. And one older woman don't mean that she might not want sex, you know.
No,
So
older women
listening to
get
them,
frisky.
Yes, they
exactly.
are. Yes, they
So
are.
I think the thing that had got me was when he was saying about if the woman don't conform and don't accept it, if this is something they decide, the male wants to decide to do, then he will get rid of her. And I'm like, how are you going to
And
do
that
that and
has
you invested
happened.
all of years?
That can
Really?
happen.
Okay,
Wow.
wait. Okay, hold
Wait.
on a second. I just want to
Yeah.
defend the brothers. Now, what they were talking about is their perspective of it. Now, as I said before, in my opinion, okay, there has to be support in place.
Yeah, because that's where Q, if I look at, even the friends that I know in the African traditions,
Mm-hmm.
they use systems to help people to even decide if they're even making the right choices and decisions, right?
Right.
Or even because everyone, let me just say this, everyone has their own spiritual makeup, right? This is in the Bible for the Christian folks too, because Jesus had a star, right? And how, they were able to find out the story with the three kings and how, they read his star through divination, right?
Mm-hmm.
That if you just, how do you say, do a PDF of a Bible and then you just do a find the word star, that word will come up multiple times in the Bible. So star, the energy of a star, what we call a star in African culture, they may call it another name like Ori, but everyone has a star.
Okay.
Even so when you meet someone, your stars have to be compatible. And a lot of times when people don't get along, it's just because of that. Their spiritual energies don't match, right?
Okay.
And
equally yoked.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you say?
Equally yoked.
Oh, okay.
So
in other words.
Yeah,
Right,
so
right.
even whether you're Christian or whatever, energetically, that invisible part that you don't see, there were ways, right? There are support systems to make sure that is harmonious. Right? So inviting someone else in just because you like them or just because
I agree with that.
it doesn't. No, and this is for people. We have to know these things if we want to grow as a community, whether it's polygamous or not.
Right.
We have to start discovering things about ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. That can help to give us edges and advantages in life. And that's one of the things, is to understand the invisible part of ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And that is a lot of times what women, when we say women's intuition, is that invisible piece. Mm-hmm. Right? That we're kind of in touch with, right? Men have it too. Men definitely have it too. They just don't think about it the same way. But there has to be harmony. There has to be that trauma, those things that we went through from this culture have to be dealt with, in that support system, because a lot of people are bringing that baggage into what we're trying to grow, polygamous or not.
Okay.
You know, even if you're in a monogamous relationship, you need that, right? That support, that thing to help you to think right, you know, to feel right. Just because you feel something doesn't mean it's right. Just
Right.
because you think something doesn't mean it's right. Just because you think and feel something doesn't mean it benefits your children, right? Because they have their own energies. And just because you think and feel something doesn't mean it's right for the whole, right? So a lot of times we have to alter, adjust, we have to sit back, you know, for something else, you know. So that invisible piece that we have to deal with is important. You know, as a support, we need a way. And I'm going to tell you another story because you brought something up, Q. I have, as a massage therapist, the majority of my clients come from India.
Okay.
And they had arranged marriages and stuff like that, but they used astrology, same type of thing. And one of my clients told me an interesting story the other day was she was matched with her husband, but they had to do an astrology reading. Vibrationally, our names are important as well, right? So in their system, she had to change her name to be harmonious with her husband.
Wow.
Okay? Because vibrationally, when you call a name, it's going to have a good vibration or a bad vibration. And that's stuff we don't think about even when we're talking about just a simple relationship.
Okay.
The Baba, you know, their elder, which they call Dada, their spiritual leader, right, who guides them. They have that support system, right, to tell them how to make their family life prosperous, successful, harmonious. Even down to if they had children, they told her she had to name the next child she has with the letter S, so that that child's energy supports the harmony of the family. So it's more polygamy. What I'm gathering from these life experiences, these stories from friends and clients, and you know, my own personal experience, is that polygamy is way more than what we think. It's way deeper. It's a lot more involved than just meeting people, inviting them in. You know, it's more involved than just the sexual piece. It's a lot of pieces that we have to put in place first, like a business, right? You have a business because it is a business. That's what the whole purpose of arranged marriages. That's what you're talking about. Transgeneral wealth, land, that's business. It's all business at the end of the day. And that's why love didn't come into play. You know, people got married for political reasons. People got married for, you know, peace, right? To keep peace between tribes or countries.
Stop going to war.
Whatever. Yeah,
stop wars. Kill your people because of family.
And they also did it for DNA purity. We don't think about that. We just have children all over the place. You want good children, a good stock, good breed. You want to think about the person that you having children with.
Good stock. Yes, I like that word.
Yeah, good stock. So there's things in place that can clean the DNA. Those are conversations we don't have.
Okay. Wow. I mean, that's a mouthful. Now, let me say this.
Wait.
Okay.
Q.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Somebody think people got comments. Hold on.
Okay. Anybody?
I'm in agreement with everything she said.
Okay. So am I.
Yeah. And I can tell you, if those things aren't in play, because the situation, I can see where it is beneficial. It could be beneficial under the right circumstances like that. But when you have a situation where it's not set up the way it should be, you tend to have a male-ruled situation, and the women tend to be in an oppressed situation, which I don't think is. I'm so not with that.
Yeah, I'm not with that either. not
Yeah,
with that
so
either.
it's sort of it brings it personally, just my personal experience with that situation, and I know that wasn't the best example of polygamy done the right way. I'm aware of that, but it makes me feel like I've really if I was in that situation, or even when I meet a person, I'm looking at them in a certain way. I'm looking for those things like, okay, are they, mature enough to deal with me, to respect me, to, for the woman that I am, what I can bring to the table, what can they bring to the table? Like I'm maturing in a lot of ways to see what it is I would need in a man, want in a man, and what he can bring to my life, what I can bring to his life. So if I was going to be in a
quick question. So even after that situation that you had that sounded like it was mostly negative, just from my perspective, limited perspective, you would be interested in a polygamous situation again if the situation was if you were in agreement with what was going on.
I would say this. If there was a necessity and a purpose, I would be I would know how to be in a situation like that.
Okay.
Now, if in terms of what I want, because of my experience and because I have had no experience in terms of, I don't want to sound, I'm not bitter at all. but
what you said, if you were, you'd have every right to be. But
yeah,
go ahead.
but I would have, somebody would have to show and prove what kind of man they are. Because I'm not gonna turn give my power over to a man who doesn't deserve it. You know what I'm saying? And not that I should have to give my power to anybody, but I'm just saying share it with a person who doesn't deserve it and doesn't know what to do with it. And doesn't even know what to do with their power. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I
have a question. So why is it that it's the man right here? You have this man, and then there's all these women. Now, everything in the Bible, to me, the Bible, who wrote the Bible? Where did the Bible come from? Because the last time I checked, a man can't give birth to anything. Women are the only ones that can give birth. Therefore, we gave birth to them. So how is it that we are in situations where colonies of women are being shepherded by a man? Why would that even exist?
Well, one part of that, Bassett, is because in a lot of situations, there's more women than men, right? And so if the woman needs to have children, or you're trying to grow that community, she may have to have, more women have to have the same husband, right? To have the more children to grow the community. But there are small societies where it's the opposite, where there are women who have multiple husbands for safety, for protection, and there's not enough women to give children to the men.
Right. There's a tribe in India like that. I saw a documentary like that where the women has multiple men, and that's just their culture. That's what they do.
That polyandry.
Right.
Polyandry. Yeah. I mean, me personally, I don't agree with polyandry. That's just where I'm at. But what
it's not even. But it's a necessity, though.
Okay, but right, and that's where I'm going with that. The fact of the matter is, we are urbanites. Okay, the majority of the time is that women come into a family for procreation, and protection. Okay. As a man, I don't like the term alpha and beta male and all that. I don't subscribe to that. But I'll say this much: I've been a man my whole life, and there is no way that I will come under the authority of another man who's going to tell me how to run my household. Now, not saying that I know everything. Mentorship is important. Support system is important, both male and female. Like I said, I'm talking to you ladies about polygamy. You're giving me your experiences. I am grateful because I could never understand your perspective. I'm like, every time one of you open your mouth, blowing my mind, because it's just so many nuances of what we're talking about that me as a provider, me as a protector, me as a singularly focused male doing what males do, it's just so many facets of your emotions, your feelings, like you said, how you set it up, the level of maturity. Hey, what am I doing today? What's best for the group? We haven't even talked about the children and their mental, physical, and the wealth and what's coming afterwards. What's the long-term plan? We haven't even talked about that yet.
It has to be a plan.
Right. It has to be a plan.
You can't just do it. It has to. You have. The easiest way for all of us to think about it is we kind of have an idea about business. We've worked in jobs. We've seen levels of hierarchy, so you have to have a plan, period.
Okay. Now, let me say something to you ladies, because this is really important to me. Like you said, you have to have a plan. This is one of the ways. I think most of you here know that I'm kind of versed in the history and how things have changed with our society and what has happened and is still happening. This is exactly the point why I'm bringing up polygamy now. This is how we lost our position from the empires that we came from in history. A lot of people think slavery was it. No, way before you got through slavery. Remember, the melanated female was the example around the entire globe. The way that we ran the planet, the way that she ran the home, the way that she dressed, the way that she thought. Tanya is talking about divination and, no, that's the wrong term. I'm sorry. In other words, the infrastructure that is necessary to decide who you will marry, who you'll not marry, what the variables are of a healthy family structure, a healthy community structure. We have been raped of those things.
Exactly.
Okay? And Bastet brought up a really good point. The first conversation we had about this is like the level of maturity of both melanated males and females. It would take something just short of a miracle for us to rewind the clock and get this back. And that's why I'm really trying to get people to talk about it, because make no mistake, you guys have known me, except for Valerie, you guys have known me for a long time. And when I start bringing up stuff, if it doesn't come out exactly like I said, it's so close, you'd be like, yeah, okay, you get that. We are facing the return of the polygamous melanated society. Now, I'm in agreement that the man has to have maturity. He has to, well, both male and female have to have maturity, but the man has to have wealth. He has to be a good manager, okay? He has to be committed, not to himself, but for the greater good of the entire family, because the family is the beginning of the community, which is the building blocks of the society. And this is about repair. Okay, so now, from the things that we covered, another one of the things that we haven't talked about is the children. Okay, now, from a polygamous relationship, there's going to be children. That, in my opinion, in fact, before we even go to that, I want to ask one other thing. Tanya brought it up because it's real important to me. I don't believe in polygamous arrangements in an urban environment. To me, that's kind of counterproductive. The reason why I say that is because in my opinion, what's in it for the woman? In other words, you're not giving her any property. Okay, if you give her money, ladies, I hate to say it, you can have a side chick and give her money. You can pay a prostitute.
And that's
wait. Let me get this out. Okay, financial gratification is not an issue. In other words, from my perspective, to return to a polygamous society would be about repair and upliftment for all involved, right? I don't see how that can happen in an urban environment, because you got to send your kids to a public school, you got to go work on a public job, and if you got to work, why do you need this guy again? I'm confused. Somebody said something?
Well, wait.
Go ahead.
Oh, Bassett, go ahead, Bassett.
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, no, but Q, again, I think this point keeps going back to, I'm going to say it again, polygamy is not common, right? There's not many males. If you say, even if you look at this country, anyone making over 100,000, 6 figures, the numbers, especially for our male, is very low, right? You know, it could be 3% of the population that fit into that. And look at all the numbers of women that we have, right? So polygamy may have to be altered. It may have to be altered in a way that is not traditional, right? So yes, the women may be coming in with pensions or money or things that they have acquired during their life. Because again, most males are not getting money until later in age, and same thing with women. You know, if they went to college and they're whatever, they're gonna probably be at least in their 30s. You know, we're talking if the women are still childbearing, that's one thing. Most of them are not going to be making a lot of money, so they may lean on the male, right? The financial support. But if the woman is a little bit older, she may be able to bring that finance to the community, you know, depending on her career. She could be a lawyer, a doctor, whatever that is, you know? So I think polygamy would be the definition. It would change a little bit, and it may not necessarily solely be the full support of the male. It could be 60-40, it could be 70-30, but I don't think it's what you're saying, like 100% on the male, when the majority of males don't make that kind of money.
Okay, somebody else was saying something. I'll chime in on that after.
Was anybody else going to say something? I don't want to overtalk anybody else that has something to say before I do.
No, I'm listening.
I was gonna say, there's a different. So it say when you bring up an urban situation, there would have to be now. I guess in most people, even just with a regular couple, their objective generally is to eventually buy a home someplace, you know, and not stay in an urban setting, you know, forever. But sometimes it starts out that way. So say you had a situation where, because again, when I think about polygamy, there are some people that enter it based on sex. There are some people that, and they're all in agreement because they're like, well, when I'm doing this, maybe I'm not in the mood and he can be with that one. I don't care. But that person has their own livelihood. They have their own thing that they do. And their finances are all, their lives are better and enriched because they have more money to go around and do things and make things happen in an urban setting, but probably to a goal to get more, to buy a home someplace or what have you.
Right.
Again, there are varying levels of it. If there's not a need for, let's just say that you take a woman who has a career, she may be a doctor, lawyer, whatever, but she's got this career, and she meets a man who can add to her equation, she can add to his equation. I think sometimes men think about a polygamous situation in terms of not really valuing or not really understanding that there is a different dynamic nowadays because of a job situation or maybe a career choice that a woman may have. She may be of a higher financial bracket, but I think, you know, you're going to look at a person and say, we're going to do this. We're going to be in a relationship together. There has to be a respect factor with that. You know, the man has to respect that woman, and the woman has to respect that man, regardless of whether it's a, you know, one-on-one or a polygamous situation. I don't think anybody would enter into a polygamous situation unless there was need. And you said if this society is gravitating toward that, then it would have to be not based on the man thinking that. And don't get me wrong, I really can appreciate when a man is in a provider stance and a protector stance as a man, because historically, and you know, that's generally what a man's role has been, and
that's what we're designed to do.
Exactly. So that has to be respected, definitely, you know. But because those things have changed because of slavery, because of, you know, the family's been decimated in terms of the way that it used to be. A woman doesn't necessarily always financially need a man, but we do need a man. No. And I'm not saying, because I'm saying, like my grandmother, for instance, traditionally, my grandmother stayed home. She didn't have a job. My grandfather worked. They had 6 children. He took care of the household. He bought a house. She didn't have to work a day in her life. She stayed home. She raised the children, and she took care of the house. Right. You know, but I wonder that then you get their children. So you get a different generation coming in where there's different opportunities for women, you know. So then things start to shift. Things start to change for various reasons, intentional, unintentional, by design, what have you. The roles are where a woman, when you look at my grandmother's generation, there were women who suffered under men's situations if the man was abusive or what have you. They didn't have any choice, okay? So then you get into the next generation. Now the woman has a choice. Do I need to stay in this situation? I don't have to, because financially I can buy my own house. Financially I can, you know, I can pay my own bills. So I don't have to deal with an unpleasant situation with the man if I don't need to, if I choose not to. So then you get into that situation. But then if you can get into a situation with a man who's a good man, you know, who is going to provide and who is going to protect, and he's with the woman who may make more than him, but she understands and she respects that man. You know, like this is my man. We're building. You know.
That was my point, Val. Like, I think the dynamics could change in the sense that if there's women who are getting into polygamy, they may have more money than the male. He can make $70,000, $80,000 or $90,000, but he might be a great manager, right? But his finances is not there, but hers is. Or maybe the women he chooses to come into the community, they have the finances, but he can manage. He can manage it. So that's what I meant by there might have to be some openness that polygamy is not going to be quote unquote traditional.
Right. That's what I was trying to, the same, because I when you mentioned that, I was also thinking that in Q, when you were saying what you were saying, and I was also listening to the part of the conversation from part 1, what you know, the brothers were saying. I am of the opinion of, in my womanhood and my queendom, that is what I am. You know what I'm saying? And a man that comes into my life, whatever kingship he is, I'm going to respect that. But he has to respect this about me too. It can't be about, you know, you're just going to lay this down I have no say.
Right.
You know,
But
or
then
you're
it's
gonna
not
put me to the side because I don't agree with something. You know, like it. You know,
but that's what
it
you were
has to-
saying. You need the support
exactly.
to keep it, because harmony is not going to work without harmony. So you
Exactly.
need a system in place, the balance, checks and balances in place, so that it's just not going left. And
Exactly.
people's is more or less about, because now we're talking ego, right?
Yes.
Right, yes.
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 We're talking egos. But if there's what we go back to, a clear plan, if
Exactly.
as things, inflation is happening,
Yes.
Right.
we have to pay the stimulus back. People may have to pull their resources together. The environmental, the things that are shifting in our environment is going to force us to pull our resources together. So polygamy may just, the definition of it may change, where we urbanize it, right? I just say urbanize it.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, like you know, sir, you know, if I was a male, say I'm only making, you know, my 70,000, 80,000, and I'm a great manager, but I would seek out women, right? You know, that could really help build the community, if that's what it is, because it takes resources.
Right.
And if I don't have it, I want people in my community. I probably would get a woman who's a lawyer, because we're going to need the legal advice. I probably would get me another woman who's a doctor who can medically treat my children.
Right.
You know, as a male, I might go get, you know, and then you have a self-made governing household, right?
Yes.
And that's what the Jews do. I mean, I've worked with them. So, you know, you have everyone in the family has, like what you said, Valerie, in your community, everyone has a talent, right? To contribute. But in today's time, and Q knows, with the paperwork that we have to deal with, we need a lawyer in the family.
Right.
You do. You do. You do.
We need a doctor in the family. We need an herbalist in the family. We need, you know, that spiritual foundation, someone who can help us to navigate the realms, you know. We need, you know, so I would be strategic, very strategic, in how I pull together this thing. If I was to do it, if I was a male, that's what I would do.
Yeah, I like Tanya's perspective on, you know, the different variables with astrology and the names and the things that you need to decide who you're going to be with and who you're not going to be with. You can't just pick somebody and say, you come. Okay, but now in the first video, they talked about the level of communication between, we're talking about damage control now. From you ladies' perspective, look at where we are right now as a people in society. I'm only interested in the plight of melanated peoples. I'm not talking about everybody else. As it stands right now, how do we fix?
Go get you some medicines from Africa. I'm dead ass serious.
Cleanse and purify.
No, I'm serious, because they can accelerate our healing journey. They have it. Yeah. They absolutely have it. We do not have to struggle the way that we're struggling. I have taken them myself. I know personally they work. But if you want to accelerate your healing, I would investigate that.
We have ancestral pains, ancestral plights, as generational you know, pain. You know, that has passed from since we were brought over to this country. And even if we are from indigenous of this country, there's still pain. There's ancestral pain there that it's been taken from us. It's been stolen from us. We just lost everything. We're broken. We're broken. And that we have a lot of healing to do, just to try to stick together as a community.
And I think what you're talking about, the healing, because really Black people have to love Black people. Like we step one, stop marrying outside of our race, marry each other. I mean, that's basic right there. I mean, that would go a long way. Then we can start working on our communities. I mean, the polygamy, I'm sorry, I didn't say it right.
It's okay.
That's a way to expedite, right? We can sort of expedite and put it in place right now. But if we work with what we have, and we have a lot, we have some of our most brilliant minds in these prison systems.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
And
that's why they're there.
They need support when
Can
they
I
come
chime in for a
out.
minute? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Sister Bay, how
not
you
to
doing?
cut you off, but good. One of the things that the brothers said that I thought was interesting is they said that to mentor would be important, especially with the young people that we have today, because a lot of them don't really care about a lot of things. And so if these are the generations that's coming up behind us, and we see what they're going to have to deal with later, they did say highly about mentoring men that are real men, mentoring young men now, and women that have careers or know how to do certain things, mentoring the young ladies. And I think that would be very important dealing with the children that are coming up today.
Okay.
It's critical.
Yeah. But now I'm going back to, same thing, a second verse, same as the first. We have too many interruptions from the iron hand oppression of Rome. This is why I'm an advocate of leaving the cities, getting on our own land. In other words, you have people who are afraid to discipline their children. You have people afraid to speak their mind about, their views on how they do. Oh, well, let's not be politically correct. Listen, I'm like this. I'm not down with that gay stuff. I'm not down with that alpha, beta, alpha, kappa. Man, I've been a man from, I've been a male from the day I was born, and I'm a man. I'm like this. I don't understand alpha and beta. So that means that if I'm aggressive, I'm in my alpha stage. Not every situation takes aggression. Sometimes you gotta use honey. So does that mean that, okay, well, I'm being a beta or a kappa male or whatever you decide you want to talk about? I think that whole labeling system is gay. You be a man, there's a man and a woman, and you use whatever is necessary to get the job done. We have too many westernized ideas in our melanated society. That's why it's not a melanated society anymore. It's like we don't know how to think for ourselves anymore. Go ahead, Tanya. Tanya, I can't hear you. Tanya, I can't hear you.
Because we've lost so much. I think we can look, for one, we could use history from what we're learning, right? We're uncovering and what we're unearthing about who melanated people are all around the world, right? I think we could look, I think the thing that we need is we're in a good place in the sense that it is information age. We can literally develop something on our own, taking principles and seeing what worked and what didn't work in society. There's enough information out there to kind of know like what kind of things work and what kind of things don't work, and we can tweak it for our environment, right? I think that we can also lean on in this, and I know that there was indigenous people here in Americas, but we're in a unique position where we can lean on, it's like trade, like, the Moors traveled all around the world, right? And did trade. They went ships. We can do the same thing to seek out those things that can literally help us to strengthen our mind, body, spirit. That usually comes in the form of some kind of herb, plant, healing, something that literally, because it's all information. Plants is information. Water is information. It's all information, right? We've been contaminated with bad information. Our DNA is contaminated with bad information. It's toxic. How do we now reprogram ourselves, right? Right? Usually you can do that if you want to accelerate that through the plant kingdom. Whether it's you seek out those elders, even the Amazons, that's what the white people do. That's what Rome does. They go to those places, they get the information, and then they just want to recreate it in their own form, pharmaceutical sell, and make money from it. But the answers are out there. We don't have to struggle knocking our heads against the wall when there are communities, indigenous communities all around the world who can help us get answers to accelerate our healing. And that begins on the inside. It's all on the inside. Body, mind, and spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to heal, we can have the conversations and we can mentor and the things that we common sense know is right and wrong. But there's levels to this that we just can't get to through mentorship. We will not, because it's too deep. It's too traumatic and it's too deep and it goes too far back. So to heal that, you may have to go through some other channels, get some other answers at some other place around this world, bring it back to your community, or a group of us go someplace, learn some things, bring it back to the communities, so then we can, reproduce, recreate, and bring that healing, and then teach the younger ones, keep this thing going. There's a lot that's a whole nother conversation.
Right, exactly.
But we have to seek answers. I think we also, you said we fear a lot of things, but we also don't think that we can get help elsewhere.
And we don't know where to go.
And there are there's other people that communities are working, and they have the healing, they have the medicine, they have it. It exists. We just have to open our minds up enough to be able to go seek it out like everybody else seeks it out and bring it back to our communities for our healing. We can accelerate, and it doesn't have to be a traumatic healing. It could be a very gentle, progressive healing.
Okay. I have a question. Anybody else want to chime in on that before I switch modes? All right.
Then we'll be better suited for our children.
Right. Man, there you go. That's the next thing. Now, polygamy is a topic. We haven't discussed the children. Okay? How do we redeem our children? This is before we get to the polygamous side of it. All right? The relationship between the melanated man and the woman, we have to heal. Okay, there's a level of maturity that needs to be dealt with on both sides. But how? No, okay, watch this. Let's just bring it into The Walking Dead. Okay, society's collapsing. COVID has caused you not to be able to travel, so you can't make money. You have to combine yourself with someone else in the inner cities, or get out of the cities. If you can't get out of the cities, you have to combine your households. You have to. You have no choice now. All right? If that becomes the case, how do we, as a man, I'm asking the feminine energy in the room, how do we begin to, as a man, to pour out ourselves so that the feminine energy can trust and begin to help us heal not only ourselves as mature adults, but transmute that to the generation that's going to come behind us? Because if we are crazy, we can only hope to make crazy offspring. And how do we fix that in the beginning? Now, Tanya, I heard what you said about the structures that we have, but everybody is not going to deal with the plant kingdom per se. You know what I mean?
No, you asked a different question. I have a different answer.
Okay, go ahead. Wait, go ahead.
Well, you said The Walking Dead, right?
Right. That's what we're talking about now.
Well, when you talk about The Walking Dead, when you talk about the mind, urgency, scarcity, fear will make you do things that you never even thought you can do. So I think like we said earlier, things in your environment will force by default things to happen, like in The Walking Dead. People who normally couldn't kill found themselves having to kill to survive.
Well, I'm from Brooklyn, so that was always there, but I know what you mean.
I'm saying you would be in a Walking Dead situation. Everything you think and know, it goes out the window. You're forced to come together to survive. Survival changes the whole dynamic.
Okay, well, let me just say this real quick. We understand the Walking Dead scenario, shit hit the fan, all that stuff, right? Prove to me that we are not already there. Just because you have a job, just because you have finances coming in, look at how things have changed in the last 365 days a year. I know it's going to get worse. I know it is.
We're not there yet.
You don't think so? Okay.
No, because people are not scared enough to make changes. They still shopping, so we're not there yet.
Anybody? Yes, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. People are not there yet mentally, but are we not at the precipice of that as a people? Society is not changing. Society has changed. Travel is getting ready to get limited. Oh, you don't have your vaccination card? You don't have your QR code?
Nah,
okay, well, you can't fly on plane. You can't go here. You can't come here. Things are shutting down. Things are shutting down like dominoes. Okay, how can we? Like I said, this is coming. Okay, you know, I think most of you here know that I come from a law enforcement background, so there's information that I'm privy to from time to time that is not generally known. I'll just leave it there. Okay? Things are changing on a daily basis. Now, in order for us to pick up on this and benefit from the foreknowledge in a tangible way, we have to repair the relationship between the melanated man and the melanated woman. From you ladies' perspective, remember, subject is still polygamy, combining households, combining resources. What things would you have to see from men in order for you to decide to contribute or even consider that form of lifestyle in a contemporary, tangible way? In other words, I not that I tell you, oh yeah, it's going to be like this, we're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. No. What has to be in place? What has to be said? What has to be shown? What has to be done? Remember, not just word, but indeed, but for your own mental security. How do we begin to fix our relationships where we are right now? Anybody?
I would say that for me to consider that type of situation, it would have to be a man who I could see who's genuine, who's secure in himself, and who is a good listener, who shows me that it's not just because honestly, me as a woman, every woman is different. Personally, I want to have a bond with a man. You know, I want to be able to talk to that man. I want that man to be able to care about me and care about us as a unit, and whatever else is going on. If there's going to be another part of a family we're going to be a part of, that man has a kind heart and a plan, and is strong, you know, that in himself, and I would have to see kindness, I would have to see honesty, I would have to see, in terms of being able to trust, you know, and someone who can communicate and someone with a plan that we can discuss, and who can respect, my input too,
Okay, well, if that's the case,
This
okay,
is the
stay right.
basic,
Yeah,
okay.
no, that's fine. Stay right there. So now, on the flip side, you find a person like that. What are you bringing to that scenario? He's bringing those things that you just asked for. What are you bringing? And how
So,
are you, wait,
okay.
how are you going to communicate that you are prepared to surrender those things that you may have, that he may need, that we may need as a community? How are you prepared to do that? And how are you prepared to, alter your thinking?
Well, I have what I can bring to the table. I have a lot. I've been in that type of situation, so I know I'm very resourceful. I know how to make things by hand. I know how to, I've been saving seeds. That's just a personal thing. But I'm just saying, because I believe that we are going to need to grow our own food.
Right, exactly.
I know how to be on a team, if I could just
Good
put it
point.
in that way.
Yeah,
I
good
know
point.
how to relate to all types of people. I know how to communicate, and I'm a loving person.
Okay.
So I like to get along. I love to communicate, and I love to read. So I'm very I don't believe that everybody knows everything, and I'm not saying that I do. I'm saying
Right.
I learn. I love to learn, and I love to grow, and I can bring a lot to a relationship in a polygamous situation or one-on-one.
Right.
In terms of what I do for a living, for my 9 to 5, I'm a government contractor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but that that could easily, again, with whatever happens in the society and the infrastructure, that can change.
It's still skills though.
But I do have skill sets that I can bring to the table in terms of me, adding to a family unit or an equation in that way. But
all right, anybody else?
I guess I would be, in order for me to even consider, it would have to be kind of like a life or death scenario for me, because
Okay.
it would have to be like I'm not going to eat, or I'm going to die if I don't, join this community over here. They're giving me this opportunity, because if I stay over here by myself, then it's over. That it would have to literally be that scenario for me, to consider it. So, yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Because the next one is a big one, so I'm going to get this one out of the way. Anybody else? Last call. All right. As a male, this is a big one for every male that I have broached this subject with, and they all bring up the same thing. And no matter what age group, it's not about sex, it's not about where we're going to live, it's all of that. The main thing that's on males' mind when it comes to polygamy: how are melanated females going to get along with each other? That's
very important.
main
What's the
thing.
living scenario? How do they live? Do they live in one house, multiple houses? Like, how does that even work?
Okay. Wait. Valerie, you go last. Last. Okay. Good point. The thing about, oh my God. Okay. Good point. I'm going to let you guys chime in on that and give me your thoughts. Valerie, you go last. Because how would something like that work for you? Anybody but Valerie. What would you need to see? How do you think it should work? And how would you get along with your sisters, sister wives, or whatever? How could you get along? How could you show support for each other? How would you do that, ladies? Wow, crickets. Okay.
Well, I don't think it. I mean, I think it would have to do with me and the man that I'm with first of all, we would need to communicate and talk. And I need to know that I can trust him in decision making. Meaning, let's say hypothetically, her and I don't get along. It's almost like a Sarah and the other chick. Is
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
I need to know that if she's starting stuff in our family, that I could come to him and say, look, this is not working. And not because I'm in my feelings, but I could come to him to tell him, this is why I say it's not working. Do you know what I'm saying? She's lazy. She don't want to do anything. What are we doing here? And we still have to raise these children. So I would want him to value my opinion to the point that okay, I know you coming to me being honest and understanding and real about this. How is you going to handle it as the man? Do you know what I mean? So
definitely. Everybody get checked. I agree with that, and I understand that completely. But I got you, and I agree. And yes, you're right. But I'm going to say it again. I'm talking about the females before it even comes to the man. Ladies.
It may or it may not. It may or it may not.
How can we begin to heal the relationship between the sisters? Come on, sisters be hating on each other.
No.
For no reason.
Wait, but there's hate because of ego. But there is a live energy where people don't get along. I'm sorry, but it's like you walk into a room and someone what if this person, and I'm sorry guys, I have to take it there, but this is my life experience and I see it all the time from a spiritual perspective. People got bad stuff on them, period. Okay. Right? I'm just going to take it there. Okay. Because that's a real thing. It's a real life thing that people are carrying with them. Sometimes, so you feel it. You feel this vibe from this person so that's why I'm saying it just may not work. Okay, but you would have to stay away from that person, but wait a minute now. But on a daily basis, I can go in anywhere, on a bus, on a train, at the mall. Right, and you avoid that person. No, what I'm saying is that I see sisters. I'm talking about sisters only now, for little petty reasons, just hating on each other. Who she thinks she is, girl? You look at that thing. She don't even need to have that on. It's like a knee-jerk reaction. They don't even have an emotional response about them hating on someone who looks just like them. Right. They're not even embarrassed about it. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that there is a dynamic where melanated women hate on each other. Okay? And I think in a lot of ways that female hate, let me say rivalry. Let me use that term. Not hate, but a rivalry kind of thing. Let's use that term. Let's not be so harsh. That rivalry turns into insecurity as to whether or not I can be a viable member in a relationship such as polygamy, but that can translate to anything, not just polygamy, but I'm saying female to female melanated relationship. Ladies, how can we shut that? What can be done to shut that thing off? And how can we as males help facilitate that change?
Hello. Greetings.
Greetings.
Yes, greetings.
Hi. Hi, this is Adia. How is everyone?
Oh, I'm good. Good.
Okay. I'm listening to this question, and I'll throw my 2 cents in, if you don't mind.
Sure, please. Give me 5 cents. That's good.
Okay. Polygamy is one of the oldest forms of uniting a family, a nation. Okay. Now, to answer your question about how females would get along in a polygamous situation. First of all, traditionally, when a man decides to take on a wife, he knows that there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with that. And he's up to the task of doing so. If he chooses to take on a second wife.
Hello? Oh, shoot, she got kicked out.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she
Oh, no. Oh, she's gone. She'll
Yeah,
probably
she
call
dropped.
back in.
Yeah, she'll come back.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody until she comes back? Anybody else?
Did you still want me to wait? I did have
Oh,
something to
go
say,
ahead.
but I'm gonna
Yeah,
say-
go ahead. I'm sorry, since they're being
That's okay.
chicken.
That's okay.
Since they're being chickens about it, go ahead.
I do think that there is a general, and I really don't understand exactly what it is, because I have run into both scenarios where, just in general, I'm walking down the street, and if a sister happens to, if it is in my eyesight and we happen to lock eyes, I'm more inclined to say, "How you doing today, sister?" Or, "I like your shoes. I like your hair." You know, but I noticed, particularly down here in Maryland, a lot of women will look at you, walk by you, and look you up and down, and you'll speak to them, and they won't say a word in return. I don't understand what that is. I don't. But I find that it just depends on the woman, and maybe where I don't know if it's a situational attitude between women. I'm from New York originally, and when I bump into people down here that are from New York, we usually are more we like to uplift one another. But I know, like, some, and I'm not saying every woman that I've met that's from this area, they have a more, I haven't figured that piece out yet. But I think that if you love yourself, if you as a woman love yourself, you're not going to be inclined to put another woman down. You know, you're going to want to raise that woman up, because you have a certain awareness about how you should carry yourself and what type of energy you want to spread, you know, in general. So I don't, you know, in getting along with your sisters, you would definitely have to have the mindset that you're in this together. So, you know, if you're raising children, you have to be cognizant of the energy that you're putting out between one another and towards your children, because they're going to see that too. They need to see, you know, it has to start here and here. You know, it has to start inside you for you to even understand that this situation is serious.
Right.
It's a serious situation. So yeah, before we get into the man situation of it, it does kind of.
I have a question, Q. Oh, she came back.
Yeah, she came back.
Okay.
Oh no, what happened?
Let her finish before I
answer. I was like.
Okay, what was the last thing you all heard?
That man has to, before he takes another woman, he has to, and then it got cut off.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, you guys missed the whole thing. Okay, let me start from the beginning. I was saying polygamy is one of the oldest forms of nation building. Okay. And basically, that's what it is. It's nation building. It has nothing to do with your sexual needs.
Right.
It has nothing to do with being vain. It has to do with families, building families for survival. Okay. So when you come into a polygamous marriage or arrangement, right off the bat, you have to know that there are rules and protocols to follow. And if you're not willing to follow those rules and protocols, polygamy is not for you. And see, we here in the West, we don't know anything about polygamy.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let me just let you all know. I've been to Africa and I learned a lot while I was there. So that's why I decided to speak on this.
Mm-hmm.
When a man decides to take his first wife, that decision is based on bringing two families together.
Mm-hmm.
And those two families actually enrich each other,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they step up their game. It's financial.
Right.
It's
Contract.
financial, and it's to strengthen each one of those families. Now, if the
Yep.
man decides to take on a second woman or second wife, he doesn't just go out and say, okay, I'm going to get a second woman, and whatever my first wife thinks about this, that's on her. If they don't get along, hey,
Exactly.
no, it doesn't work like that.
Nope.
What he actually does is he brings the two women together. They sit down and they discuss what it is that their families can bring to one another and how they are going to bring these things to the family.
Mm-hmm.
It's well thought out. It's well planned. It's not just haphazard. It's
Exactly.
done to build a nation. Now, when it comes to the sexual relations you were talking about, well, do the women all live in the same house or do they live in different houses? That's one of the decisions you have to make. Do you want to live in a household with multiple women, or do you want your own space? You can do it either way. But these decisions have to be made up front. And these women have to know each other before any marriage takes place. So that throws out the window of, are we going to be able to get along? Because we know we're going to be able to get along. We met each other, we talked, we planned, we built one another, we built with our husband or future husband. We know what to expect. Polygamy is for very mature-minded people. It's not for women who have jealous tendencies, who are insecure within themselves, who think that they're going to have a husband and they don't have to bring anything to the table. No. The purpose of polygamy is for families to build. And that's the base. That's the common denominator. That's the root.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she basically summed up what we talked about because and I started out talking about Africa.
Right.
And I started out talking about how it's planned, and a lot of things are done spiritually as well to make sure things are harmonious. We're talking about polygamy from I understand what you're saying, Q, that a lot of people are not going to do the spiritual thing and a lot of people are not on that page. But let me tell you something. If they want this to work, they need to get on that page. Right. Just because you're not on that page and that's not something you're familiar with, you need to be on that page because that is what works. That's why I said we have to look towards communities where they do it and it works.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go by what we think. Yes, obviously if we can't travel anywhere and COVID hit and we have to wing it. We have to wing it. What you're talking about, Q, is winging it, right? Uh-huh. We figure it out as we go. But if that's something people are interested in before Walking Dead happens fully, right? We can start seeing what things work. Right. How to get we talk about everything else in terms of preparation, getting water, food, shelter, land, all of these things. What's your name, Lydia?
Idea.
Yeah. She, like what she's saying, we can lean on other cultures where it worked, and if they plan, we can look at how they plan, so we start thinking that way. Right. When you asked the question about sisters getting along, I said they may not, and that is true.
Yeah, that's the reality.
That's a reality. So you might need separate quarters.
Mm-hmm. But everybody has to be mature enough to know that they have to come together in unity, whether or not that's their favorite person, or they whether or not they vibe. But they know that they have to raise their family. They know they have to contribute to this unit, and it has to be successful. And everybody has to put in, their best foot forward.
The plan.
Right. Follow the plan.
It can't. I think if in Q's scenario, if it's just haphazard and we just wing it and COVID hits and society breaks down and we don't have a choice, right? Like I said before, I just think the event will just force certain things. Whether you like someone or not, you're gonna do what you have to do in that scenario. Right. But if it's a scenario where you have control, you can plan, the planning part is better, like what Sister Day is saying. It's
Okay. Yeah, well, I agree.
Hey, what happened to Bassett?
She dropped out. She had something that she had to take care of. She said she's going to try to come back if she can. Okay. Well, you talked about. Thank you, Sister Bay. Appreciate that, because that's a really good perspective. Okay, so now let's talk about children and offspring, because every child. There's no one child in a situation like that is more important than any other child. If you have situations with the sisters and getting along, how does that translate to child rearing when they're all supposed to be treated equal? Everybody's child is everybody's child. How do you propose, or how could you, remember, there are going to be people that are going to watch this that have never thought about this in an intelligent way before. So how would you articulate the fact that we are committed in a community type situation and every child has to be cared for equally? But you're telling me that there may be a situation where somebody may not get along with another person. Well, if that's the case, then how does that go with the rearing of the children? Well, does that mean that you don't want your children to play with their children? We're in that now. How do we make prep?
I think I don't know, maybe in my head I'm getting it a little twisted, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're just, when you said how do sisters get along, are we talking about a man and he has one woman, he just brings in another woman and then we just have to work it out and get along? No. Or are we talking about, but Sister Bay answered that in the sense that if we're coming to the table, we already know we're getting along, so then that's not
okay.
You say so which way are we talking?
Okay, well, her way was the way that I was thinking. Okay, not necessarily just being thrown together, but now we live in the real world. You might have made but it's like marriage. You plan to get married and be happy for 100 years. Doesn't always work that way. But when there is conflict, okay, how do we assure the success of our children? And when there are conflicts between the wives or whatever, how do we assure the proper development of the children? Because, like I said, there are people who've never considered such thing, would consider this, and they say, well, what does that mean for the children? How does that work? Is there favorite children, first wife's children versus the 10th wife's children, and
Well, if it's a mature relationship,
right? We're only talking about mature relationships.
Right. If it's a mature relationship, you're gonna put the well-being of the children first above your own personal feelings.
In the scenario, but I'm saying, let me get a couple of different perspectives. Yes, I agree with that. Anybody else?
Okay.
Well,
no, I'm sorry, Sister Dan.
In the beginning, some rules and some groundwork is going to have to be set. Different things that go into a relationship will need to be discussed before any type of marriage takes place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you cannot hit everything 100%,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but the parties involved have to sit down and have a conversation and have a discussion about money, about children, about mother-in-laws and father-in-laws and cousins and aunts and uncles. You know, there needs to be a period where people get to really know each other and they get to know what's expected in this relationship. But at the very top and the very heart of the whole thing is we're bringing our families together to build. That has to be the forefront. Everyone must understand that in order for it to work. We come together to build. If I don't like you and I don't want you to correct my child, or I don't want your children to be with my children, that type of scenario will not work.
Right.
So these things have to be talked about, and it has to be worked out in the beginning. And like I said, if you see from the beginning that these two people are not going to get together, or if there's going to be some jealousy, if there's some deceit, some backbiting, whatever it is, if you see that, that's not the relationship to be in.
Right.
Because polygamy doesn't work like that.
Nope. Nope.
Okay. Anybody else?
I was going to say the same thing as Sister Adea said, because there realistically, there are situations, polygamous situations, where there is favoritism and there is that type of dynamic. I've seen it.
Okay.
But if under an ideal situation, things
Mm-hmm.
should be laid out, and all. Most of the time, the person who can become that stabilizing force is the man in the equation, because the man would have to say, listen, this is, we're not doing this. What we're going to do is, and everybody has to be in agreement. This is how we're not going to play favorites. All the children are going to be doing X, Y, Z. They're going to have access to X, Y, Z. And that's just the way that it is. And everybody has to be in agreement. Some men in a polygamous situation, they'll throw their hands up and they'll let the women decide, and they know the women don't get along. And then that's when there's chaos. The women will, decide how it's going to be. And then there'll be some unfairness if the man allows it to be, if it's in that type of situation. So like ground rules have to be laid and followed.
And also, in polygamous relationships, if a woman is not satisfied with that relationship, I have seen scenarios as well where the woman say, okay, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And no one holds her feet to the fire and say, you can't go anywhere, or you can never leave this relationship.
Right.
They leave.
Exactly.
Okay, well, okay. That's a good point, Sister Bay. And anybody can chime in. Well, what about this? Let's say a scenario where you've been in a polygamous relationship, it was working. Let's say you've been in it for 3 years. And during that 3 years, you have accumulated things. How would you expect the material things that you have accumulated to translate to you? In other words, okay, you decide you want to leave, but everything you built has to stay in the family. How do you feel about that? Sister Bay?
Has to be some kind of agreement.
Okay, right, exactly. Like I said, that's the question. Okay, you've built up. Okay, let's say over 3 years I'm just saying, let's say we as a group, let's say a husband and 3 wives, we've acquired $100,000 worth of whatever. Okay, as a group, and you've helped participate, and each one of you has 3 children, right? You decide you want to leave. How does that translate? And in your opinion, do you think that the children that you birth should go with you?
Again,
Yeah, that's
ground
gonna
rules.
be
All this
Ground
conversation now.
no.
There's crickets
But
before.
but that's an agree. But again, that goes back to the original agreement of, because we can pretty much figure, some people are gonna leave, some people will stay, the children, and then we're talking about if your community is well off, if you're a struggling community where you
Well, let's not. Okay, I understand what you mean, but I'm saying for all intents and purposes for this particular scenario, let's say that everything financially is in place, but something comes up where you just decide that you do not want to participate any longer. No, like you said, nobody's gonna make you stay.
So then I would, my agreement would be, just in case, would be, I don't know if there's savings accounts or money put aside so that person can go with something to start their life. Depending on.
That's a suitable arrangement. But you bore 3 children. The children have to stay. How would you feel?
No, you said, well,
if that's the agreement, is
that the agreement? They might agree that you can take them, or if they stay and you say yes, then.
Well, okay. Okay. No, maybe I'm not articulating it correctly. In other words, what are we building? We're building family. We're building community. Okay, Sister Bay, you missed my scenario in the beginning. I said, okay, you have family, 3 wives, each have 3 children. Husband has 20 acres. Each wife gets 1 acre. Each child gets 1 acre when they turn 18, right? So now, if you have a scenario like that, and we are building wealth as we go across the board equally, right? Okay, now, so you say you don't like it anymore. You want to leave. There is concessions that can be made for your 1 acre. And maybe a transfer of wealth, some kind of financial transfer. But if you leave and the children have to stay, if you take the children, they lose their property. You know what I'm saying? And how's that going to work? You know what I'm saying? How would you feel about that? You help, okay, I guess let me go back for a second. I'm trying to bring it out there to see how you feel about it, but at the same time, understand that there are realistic things that happen, but for all intents and purposes, we are trying to make this thing permanent. It's not like, well, I'm in my feelings, I'm leaving. Why are you leaving? Remember, we have a council where the man is accountable to a group of elders, and the female is accountable to a group of mature elder females. Okay, so now you got 2 groups that have to be in agreement with this person leaving. Okay, or staying. If the man is not treating the woman right, she has female advocates that can go to the male advocates and say, hey, he's not doing what he promised. You cannot have a society that hopes to prosper and there's no accountability. Oh, I'm the king. Y'all do what I say, and if you don't like it, you could go. That's not what we're talking about here. And this is the thing that we're trying to articulate to anyone who is listening that would be interested in a situation like that. Sister Bay, before you came, Sister Valerie talked about a polygamous situation that she was in earlier and some of the negatives that went along with it. And I was like, oh, I would never, want to put a sister in a situation like that, because you have no advocacy. You have nothing set up for the sister's well-being. What I'm talking about is from day one. Remember back in the days, we used to have dowries. What happened to those things? Okay? The woman shows up at the door with a bag of clothes and come on in. No. You got to bring some, not just your gifts, your skills, what substance that you have. After all, the very term inheritance is in her.
Well, Q, before Sister Bay answers that, we kind of talked about that with women today, right?
Mhm.
With their careers, right? And bringing that, financial gain that they have to the community.
Yeah, but okay. No, that's cool, right? But let's say they're not a professional person. They're bringing whatever it is that they have to the table. You've been in a situation for 3 years. You bore 3 children in 3 years. The day that you set foot in that place, I gave you an acre of land, okay? And each one of those children are promised an acre. And these are all contracts, by the way. This is not word of mouth. Okay, everything should be done in agreements and in contracts. That's my personal opinion. Okay, now you are not happy for some reason, and you decide you want to leave. Is that because you have gone to the female elders and you're not satisfied? The female elders and you have gone to the male elders and you're still not satisfied? Or you just decide, nope, I woke up today and I'm not going to have this anymore. I'm just leaving. And I'm leaving the kids and everything. How would you feel about that?
No, you can't just abruptly say I'm unsatisfied and I'm going to leave the kids. There are some systems that need to be put into place. Most mothers want their children with them, and they will do whatever it takes to make that happen. Now, if a woman feels as though she can't take care of herself and her children as well, then she may make the decision to leave the kids with the father based on that, and it may not be forever. It may just be short term until she can get on her feet. But now, if you're speaking traditionally, the woman goes to her elders and she speaks with them about her feelings. What those elder women are going to try to do is convince her to stay.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen.
Yes.
But if she chooses to go against that, if the man is not willing to support her based on her decision, personally, I hope she would have been smart enough while she was in this relationship to have provisions for herself. You see, because Western women, the way we think that way, we're going to make sure that things are taken care of no matter what.
Right.
So I would hope that this woman would do that she would have her own bank account and she would have her own, you see, so that she will be okay, just in case the man says, well, she's deciding to leave, so she's cutting me off, I'm cutting her off as well.
Well, I guess, yeah, I'm sorry.
Take care of herself.
Yeah. Like I said, I have an opinion about that, but I do understand, and my mom is like that, so I understand you always have to have your own. But I think even in a situation where you want to leave, I think it would be good where there are financial agreements in place that if you decide that you leave, this is what belongs to you, and you'd abide by that. So that's just another scenario. Anybody else got anything they want to add? Because my thing about it is, like I said, what we're doing, we're putting all of this stuff out on the table. I want to see what the female perspective is in pretty much every scenario, because this is my personal belief. I believe that we are staring at the change in society, and melanated couples are going to have to face these things. This is some of the stuff we talked about before you came in. And the thing about, I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Q, finish.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that I'm just trying to put the different scenarios out there so that people can consider and argue the points and just give it a good thought before they may be faced with something like that and sit in the middle of the floor and starve to death because they're in their feelings. about, well, oh, I'm not doing that. Well, okay, but why? You know, well, I don't believe in that. I'm not sharing, but
Yeah,
why?
hunger will hunger will change that.
Yeah, but at the same time, the situation where you were in a primo situation to join a primo family because you were in your feelings, you may miss that opportunity. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, that's just the chances that humans take. Like, we're not used to that here in this culture.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't know. Like, I think we could talk a lot. I could say whatever. Like, I could say whatever on this call. But if the situation presented itself, if nature took over, a certain event happened, my whole thing may shift depending on what's in front of me.
Right.
And I may not even know how I'm gonna act. Sometimes you don't know what you're gonna do until you are in the situation.
Right.
Well, I'm really enjoying this conversation, and
Me too.
I never thought about polygamy from the perspective that you guys are bringing. You know, suppose if there's some type of shift and we don't have a choice but to. You see?
Yeah,
I never really even thought about it like that, because I'm like this. I don't want to share.
Right.
Right.
But
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
If it comes down to my survival, my children's survival, my family's survival, you know, you just have to shift your way of thinking. So,
and women, and you know what, Q, women have always done that. When it comes to feeding their children, they will go on the pole, they will hit the streets, they will do whatever they have to do to feed their
Take care of their
kids.
child, their family.
You know, like, you know, it is what it is. Like, people, when they're in situations of urgency and emergency, they think totally different.
Yeah.
When right now, if we're comfortable, we're going to think one way.
Right, exactly.
But when something else happens, trust me, you're going to do something else. You don't even think that you would ever do. That's the thing.
So, ladies, I really enjoyed. We covered a lot of stuff.
Good.
That was really good. Now, listen, there are a lot of guys who, even though they know that this may come to be a necessity, not every guy is really looking forward to it. No. But you know what? The one thing that every guy that I have ever spoken to about this, they said, well, we have to look out for the sisters. Blew my mind. That was the first thing. You think it would be about sex or children, and I don't know, you know, sisters aren't going to listen to me. None of that. They said, well, you know, whatever has to happen, we have to look out for the sisters. Young, old, everything. So
that's good to hear.
That is good to hear.
Yeah. Remember, what we are doing, we are laying the groundwork for people to think about a subject matter that they otherwise have not or would not. And taking all of the emotional arguments away and showing them some bare facts. Like I said, Tanya brought some good points. You brought some good points. Everybody brought some good points.
No, everybody had points. Excellent points.
Everybody had excellent points. So thank you, ladies, so much for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, man, my pleasure. It was great for me.
Thank you so much.
And it couldn't have happened on a better day than Mother's Day. I'm tickled to think about that.
Me too, and happy Mother's Day to the mothers.
Right.
I know, Tanya.
Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day to the mothers, and I'll see you guys next time, all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
bye.
All right, have a good night.